Welcome in, YCN Sports Talk. Jeremy Stout, Dustin Ribellini. And Dustin, we got a lot going on. The NBA playoffs coming up in a little bit. Opening day starting Sunday, technically. And then, of course, March Madness Final Four is coming to a close. We'll get to all that later in the Salt Hill Pub Picks of the Week. But first, let's start with the Celtics on the hardwood. Currently number one seed as they sit right now. I think it's a half a game up on the Cavs after Cavs losing the other night to the Spurs. And 8-2 in their last 10. Celtics play the Bucks tonight, Wednesday night. This team, through everything they've been through, no trades, some injuries, Horford kind of questionable throughout part of the season, Isaiah Thomas, the only piece, seems really sticking together, and they're peaking, it seems like, at the right time.
They're playing some really good basketball right now, Jeremy. Like you said, 8-2 in the last 10 games. Somewhat of an easy schedule, so I don't want to overreact and say that they're beating great teams. They do have one more game against Cleveland coming up on April 5th, which I think will be for the number one seed.
Yeah.
It is at home, but you know Cleveland's also got that game circled as well. They are playing great basketball. You just wonder, the problem I have with the Celtics is there's still some question marks to me. In the playoffs, who can be that consistent second scorer? We've seen teams try to take Isaiah Thomas out of the game a little bit more. He did have 30 the other night in a nice win, but you just kind of wonder, how's it going to stay when it comes playoff time, when the games are lower scoring, there's not as much flow of the game, it's more a defensive battle. Can someone step up?
Now, at this point, though, whether it be for the number one seed, number two seed, whatever we're talking, we'll get to that in a little bit, but right now, do we have to finally start taking this team seriously and saying, yeah, they have questions, no question about that, but this Cavs team, they have questions. LeBron said it himself, we're not tough. The Raptors have questions. Are they going to get everybody healthy? Washington, they're on a tough road trip. So it kind of seems like everybody has questions. I'm not going to say the Celtics are the favorite in the East. That would be foolish. But at some point, we've always come up with a reason to say, well, they're still underdogs to the Cavs. And while they still are, why don't we just say, hey, they should get to the Eastern Conference Finals and play it. Yeah, instead of handicapping that already before we let them prove to us that they can win.
Right. This team, if they play well, they can no question get to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know if they can beat the Cavs and get to the NBA Finals. The only thing I question is there's not a lot. It's one thing to get to the playoffs. It's another thing to win in the playoffs. There's not a lot of players on this team that have won playoff series. Obviously, Horford's won a few in Atlanta, but Thomas, not a whole lot of success. Crowder, a little bit here and there in Dallas, but not much. That's the thing. That's the thing the average fan doesn't realize. Winning 50 games in the regular season is a lot easier than winning 4 out of 7 in a playoff series.
Right, and you mentioned the game changes and the benches aren't as deep, which the Celtics have that advantage because they have a deep bench, and that might be kind of negated because you usually you have more rest, you don't use as deep of a bench.
Right.
But before we get to the finals in the Eastern Conference, let's talk about the second round, and they'll probably match up with Washington or Toronto. Whether they get the 1 seed, the 2 seed, Washington, Toronto are probably going to be 3 and 4.
Right.
That won't matter. Is there a team that, from your eyes, you've watched a lot of games, and they match up with better? Both of them probably not as great, but is there one that might be you're looking forward to more?
They have struggled with both teams this year. Both Washington and Toronto have beaten them a couple times. I would rather see Toronto personally, only because at this point, with Kyle Lowry still out, he'd be working his way back into the lineup. So you kind of wonder, now granted, Kyle Lowry is one of the better point guards in the NBA, but you kind of wonder, he's been out for so long, how can he integrate himself back into this team? Washington, I'm very scared of Washington because of their guards. Obviously, Toronto has good guards too with Lowry and DeRozan. But Beal and Wall can shoot, they can get to the rim, they're very athletic. And the Celtics, they're not a very athletic team. They do like to score a lot of points, but it's not like they are high-flying, dunking the ball every time. They're a lot more of a perimeter-oriented team, where Washington, I think, with Wall, Beal, even Otto Porter, they're very athletic.
Right, and they're a defensive team. They play hard, but you're right, when it comes to athletic ability, they don't show it as much. So now, if they were to get the 1 seed over the Cavs or the number 2 seed, regardless, I would imagine that if they're the 1 seed, they get that home court advantage. It's probably closer to a 50-50. Obviously, maybe even 55 for the Cavs. But if they're the number 2 seed, it's probably a 1 in 3 chance that they win, right? The number 1 seed is more important on what I'm saying to the Celtics than it is to the Cavs.
Oh, no question. And I heard this the other day, and someone said, you can't really tell the Cavaliers that the 1 seed's important when they went on the road in the NBA Finals down 3-1 and won games 5 and 7. So yeah, I do agree. If the Celtics have the home court, I think it's more. I think the Cavs are still favored just because of who they have. But if they have to go on the road to Cleveland, I don't think it's really a series.
Right. It just seems like there's the point of, even with home court advantage, they're probably at best 50-50 shot, is what I think we're saying. But I think it's encouraging that they're playing well, like you said, and now it looks like that first-round matchup, even a couple months ago, we were talking that first-round matchup against the Bulls or something, they could get bounced.
Right.
I think it's a little bit safer now. But we'll see what happens. It's still, playoffs are still a couple weeks away. When we come back, something that's not too far away, opening day, we'll get talking about the National League, give our picks for the National League and our World Series picks as well. You're watching YCN Sports Talk.